All right, folks. Hey, welcome on back here for another fantastic edition of our weekly workshop, Traders Talk, hosted simulcast, normally inside our live trading room. Great to see all of our students and members there. Great to see Margaret, Leonard, Luis. Great to see Lawrence. Got Kathleen. Got Andrea just before Chuck. All of our students and members alike there. Hey, we actually get the webcam up just inside our trading room, as well as on social media, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, etc. Just all of our social media streams just being at Cyber Trading U. You'll see that pop up on the lower left. There we go. But folks, hey, we have a lot to talk about here. Not a whole lot to trade. We have the Fed coming up, actually. Fed meeting beginning today, ending tomorrow, right? So you can see a lot of action heading into the end of this week. But here, Lacey, we'll have the chance to go over certain trades that we'd called out from earlier this morning and from yesterday. I received a bunch of different emails from actually the last 24 hours on students just asking me to go over certain trades. So really quick, for any of our new students and members here, really quick, just I always like to type my email address, posted a few times earlier, but just there you go. Josh at ctutrading.com for all of us inside our live trading room. And if you're on YouTube, social media as well. But just to be a student inside our room, you get the full education, the full breakdown, at least as far as why we're doing what we're doing. So right there as well, post that just at least for now on the social feeds there. There we go. All right. But any of our students that had questions earlier, we'll have the chance to go over those in just a bit. How about this? This is still pushing up. I just got out on this trade just before. It spooked me because this stock historically is a pop and drop trade. Just even, let's go back monthly maybe. Is this all we got? But the stock over time, just looking back day to day, has had some pops and then some big pullbacks after. It's not really a stock we're familiar with. It's probably one that's a lower float stock at that. So, hey, normally around 10:15, 10:30, we tend to see reversals, right? Well, more or less, and we'll go into this in more detail in just a bit. I thought this would pull back a little bit from that last peak. And, I took like a 5-cent, 4-cent profit on it, but just, I wanted that proverbial big move. And, I didn't get it at the time. Now it's starting to make at least a push up again. We'll see if this ends up popping. But how about this Lacey? Well, hey, maybe I was a little ignorant. Lacey actually is 131 million share float, believe it or not. That's actually pretty strong for myself. That's a lot normally for what we normally, trade. So I got to tell you, I mean, that's not really like where I should have held on. But as far as perspective, I ended up giving back some profits that I made from earlier this morning on this trade. And then it was the work stock too. So for this last pop, I took a little money. All right, still pushing up more. Let's go over this stock at least first. Then we'll go over a couple of different emails that came in. I saw from Bill, from Lee, from Leonard, from Henry, from I think maybe one or two more. I'll check spam in just a bit. But otherwise, though, the Lacey stock is one that we ended up trading actually from yesterday too, just to begin. Popped and dropped yesterday a little bit. And that's where typically what makes the percent gainers list will often make the losers list, shortly after. If it's not the next day, it's the day afterwards. All right, so more or less on this trade, even just going back to yesterday's heat map, going back to like what this looked like yesterday, doesn't really show like big levels. Doesn't really show dark, big red lines here. And trust me, I'm not trying to ask you to force one out right now. There isn't really big size out there on the COB column. Just do that there briefly. There we go. There's not really like a huge size out there on the COB column, like an iceberg order sticking out there as resistance. Just popped, dropped, laid flat. That's it. Okay, well, heading into the pre-market session this morning, it did gap up higher and it was trading better volume even in the pre-market than it was like yesterday. So let's ask this now. What are your largest orders on the order book at this time, where you kind of see the COB column? At what prices do you see the largest orders? I'm just looking for like the largest order on the ask that you see there, and then like the largest order on the bid that you may see there. What do you got? For Tony and Luis, Larry, all of our students right now in chat. Just give you a few seconds to answer. Gary saying, former student from way back. Great to see Gary on YouTube joining us right now. Gary, look forward to having you back inside our live trading room, but great to see you here for now. Get you back in the swing of things. Said has some great trades on IP this morning. Ooh, IP. We'll take a look at that one perhaps later on. Absolutely. What do we got though, folks? Joyce, one of our diamond students here. Lee, Leonard, Tony. So 140, 160, 120. Well, 140, I don't really see. 140 I don't really have as like a darker red line, not really a big order on the COB column there. 160 definitely. It looks like about 43,000 shares on the sell side there. And then on the buy side, as we drop down here towards the bottom, you got about 38,000 sticking out there at 120. So, just for right now, 120, 160. Of course, there's other orders out there. It looks like at 149 roughly here, unless if it moved up. Yeah, it moved up there. And then even at like 112. But what's the largest? What's the biggest out there? We follow the big money. So, of course, there's larger out there, and it could create essentially like a web of support, a web of resistance up top. Let's just mark 120. Let's just mark 160 out there for right now. How about now? What do we got after that? After 160, what's our next largest order? In terms of price, not in terms of size. That's definitely the largest order out there. The one up top. It's like at what? Like 184, 185 maybe there. 183, all right? 183 it looks like to be for about 102,000 shares. So right away, let me just quickly draw a couple lines on this chart. You don't really see a line there at 120. You don't see a line there at 160 coming up here. Well, let me take a look. What's happening right now? Just kind of bounced off of that price basically, or moved up to it, got close, and then pulled back. But really your larger resistance is like 183, right? And then we had support at 120. We'll loosely just put that line there for now, right? All right. So, hey, now you can kind of see this ended up pulling back at the open. Right when 9:30 hit, the market opened up. This broke under, broke back over, right? Actually, really quick, I want to just give a big shout out to one of our students, Wayne. I don't know if he's in live right now with us, but he's normally one of our pre-market traders. I read the chat, folks. I see the chat all throughout the morning when I come in. I scroll up, I study up on everyone's posts just because I want to know what you're trading. I want to see how you're entering trades. And Wayne, been with us for a long time, and actually probably as long as I've been with Fausto here, probably like 8 to 10 years. Wayne's been with us, and he said he was trying to invoke the classic Josh under and over move. It was on a separate trade, I think, but that under and over, right? So where you want to see support build breaks under, back over, and Wayne wrote that maybe it was on a separate stock, but at 8:25 in the morning, it's like the more that you're watching our workshops, the more that you're a student in our room, you tend to pick up on what we're focused on, our tendencies essentially, right? So under and over, but obviously it even came back down. A little scary. Obviously, if it's not going to break higher, there's a great case to see it break lower. But this ended up breaking down. It didn't break lower. It ended up thankfully providing even one more opportunity at that slingshot. Breaks under, breaks back over. It's easy to say that that's the sweet spot, but that's what we talk about here every Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock in the morning. So that right there was a really clean trade in hindsight. Now, did I take that move? No, I didn't. I didn't have this line set here. If I was more prepared to follow Lysy here this morning than I could have been, or than I was, then I could have been there to take it, right? I was focused on the ENVB trade, the work stock afterward. There's other stocks out there, but I was focused on this trade, and I was focused on it just before. It's definitely popping up a little bit higher here for me right now. I wish I held on, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. This level here at like 138, 139, I want to show you this here. Now, if this like freaking runs up to $2, or if it runs up to this iceberg at 183 without me in it, I'll be a little pissed. But this stock, at least in the morning session, it was building up some good buying, especially here off of 139. The opening print was here at 33. So even prior to that in pre-market, you could see at 138, 139, there was some good buying there. And in the event where this breaks over that price, I'm looking for that larger run. Looks like it's running without me right now, right? So right place, wrong time in terms of just the momentum. But I took the entry just before here. Now, this is what scared me, though. And this is definitely running now, but this is what can happen. This is what happens quite often. It started out this way a bit, too. So after this large order on the ask got pulled, after the market opened, for that matter, allow me to say, this order popped up, about over 500,000 shares popping up at 155 on the sell side. So it was out there all morning, and I was looking for a move from 139 up to that price at least. I wish I sold in time, or I wish I held on longer. But what happened was here, this one ended up where the iceberg got pulled, and then all of a sudden we have this big drop. Right, we have a larger drop here from 149 down to 140. I ended up getting out as it was beginning to push back up. I took like 144 exit. I was in at 39. 5 cents. It is what it is. But the reason I got out is because quite often, and this is where we try and warn you of this happening, what happens is where that order gets pulled right here at 155, you'll tend to see that person look to just trigger a market exit where they end up just dumping off their shares on the bid. And hey, the thing dropped quite a bit back down to basically my entry price. So did I want to flip into the negative? Did I want to give all of it back? No, it's like, shit, all right, let me just get out and just get a few cents on this trade if I can. And then I thought it was going to dump lower. So, hey, in hindsight, this scared me out a bit, right? I thought it was going to just be a complete reversal. And I gave back a little money earlier in the morning on the work stock right here. So I got some money back. It's catch 22, right? So I got like 4 or 5 cent profit on it. But at the end of the day, now it's making a little bit stronger of a push. Question is, though, hey, are we going to continue? Because right now, live as I'm talking, you'd like to think your next resistance is here at 83. Maybe I do look to jump back in on this if there's a chance live here right now. I normally don't trade while we're teaching, especially in Traders Talk right now. But otherwise, if this is going to continue to hold here, looks like perhaps there's an order on the bid. Look at this, 50, 60,000 shares. It's not all one ECN, though. It's about 27K through the New York Stock Exchange. It's about 19,000, 20,000 through the ARCA book. So it's not necessarily one buyer, one exchange in particular. So I'm still a little hesitant here. We still actually have that resistance at 55 perhaps as well. You can draw a line there just to represent that pulled order that got removed. But we'll see if this can make the push live, right? Now, for all of us in chat here, let me know if you have any questions so far. I thought Wayne came back in the chat there for a second. Abdul got some money on that. Brad got some money on that. Bell, there we go. And they were in from lower prices, mind you, from 125, 133. They got out just a little earlier as it was running up. So, hey, congrats to all of our students right there. There's a trade for everybody. So that's where I even say, like, there's stocks that I'm not in that you're doing well on, stocks that I am in that you're not in at the time. It's all right. So right now, at least for this trade, if you're up that 15, 20 cents, I think that's a pretty good move, especially with the pop that we had back from yesterday. Stock was like 70, 80 cents back yesterday in the morning. It's doubled up in price, if not more since then. So eventually it's going to pull back, I feel. Let's see. Looking at the daily chart, you got a little resistance. And this lines up actually pretty nicely because you opened up right around 184 on this candle. You closed right around 184 on this candle. And 183 is where we have that larger iceberg up top next. So if the stars align, it would really lead me to say like pretty much right around 183, 184-ish. Lower the line a little bit right there. Kind of daily chart level, right? It filled the gap here at this point on this longer wick. And then from there, it consolidated back under right around 184-ish. So it wouldn't shock me if it keeps moving up. We can get up towards that price and then probably pull back. But that doesn't mean it's going to. Just look to see if we happen to have more volume join the buy side here. Obviously, these resistance lines need to flip into support. It's likely going to pull back a bit, I feel. If not, then it keeps on going. Makes it easy for us. Now, hey, otherwise, I want to go over a couple of different trades from earlier really quick. Let me just capture this on the chat. There you go. You got Irving here in chat. You got Gary here in chat. Great to see some of our students right now on YouTube. So with that, hey, I want to go over to email actually in between. We'll come back to this Lacey stock in a moment. I have to answer some email questions in between. And if this goes without me here, I'm emotionless to it all, honestly. Up on the morning, and we'll find another trade later on, even coming up after. But I had a couple emails that came in, one in particular from Bill going over the GOEV trade from yesterday. So actually, two came in, both from Bill. How about that? Let's go over to that one. Ooh, it's popping up right now. Wow, this one too. All right, so GOEV seems to be back in play also. How about that? All right, this could be a nice move coming up for both. Now, I don't know if they're related or not, but either way, we're going to at least review this stock first, and then we're going to at least fall into it coming up real time. All right, so GOEV yesterday was a little push in pre-market, but it was a better trade after the market opened up. Essentially, you could call it a short squeeze. Whatever news came out on it yesterday, it led to a nice parabolic move up. And then from there, once the volume gradually declined, this ended up coming back down pretty quickly to where it ended up failing to hold support, really. I mean, it bounced a little around, but it wasn't really a great move afterwards. Now it's trying to rev back up. But from Bill, really quick, water break in between there. From Billy says, review this trade. Got in from a shout from you and Fausto. Felt like it was too late to get in. I've seen Fausto jumped in during phase 3 classes, so I took quote unquote my shot. I thought that if Goev broke through 3, the 20,000 share iceberg order there, that it could run. Didn't wait for our favorite under and over move at 3. There we go. Shout out to Bill there on under and over, right? So I love Bill because Bill knows exactly what to send me. And for all of our new students here, keep in mind, if you want me to go over a trade, I have all the time in the world here, and especially in our trading room via private chat. Like, I want to help you. So please send me over if you can, just your entry and exit, your time and your price. That's all I'm looking for. And I can kind of investigate from there. Bill knows, of course, he's one of our longtime students. He gives me the seconds as well, which I appreciate, really. So this is from yesterday, right? We got in at 302. We got out at 363, and I took a nice exit at least. But, as far as like the trade itself, the question is like, can we do better? That's a huge profit bill. There's nothing really to do much better on, right? Especially if it's a stock that you're not as fond of, if it's something that's really not like your main type of stock to typically trade. Being up 30 cents on a $3 stock is pretty impressive. Be up 60 cents is even that much more, right? But at least as far as the entry from 3, it led to a clean break at first. And I'll just show you what Bookmap looked like at the time. Not really a big level there at first. Only about like 11,000 shares, it looks like at the time in pre-market, or at least after the open. But then you start to see more orders show up, about 46,000 shares in total coming up here going into 10 o'clock in the morning. So Bill's entry was off the breakout. Now he said, let me just really quickly see here. He said where was the under? Didn't wait for our favorite under and over move at 3. Well, let's just see what happens though at this point, because you get in at what time, Bill? 9:50 and 33 seconds. Yeah, kind of right here, right? So I would have waited at least for like the come back down to 3 here, because it's technically the first test of the level, right? Of course, in the grand scheme of life, this thing flies right on up after. Happy ending. You take a great profit. So, there's really not much to like nip into here. Like, there are times where if I'm confident enough about the breakout, I'll take it, right? As long as I set a really tight stop under me and I don't mind losing the 4 pennies or the 5 pennies or the 3 pennies on the trade, whatever it may be. Leads to a good move, obviously. Just, that the initial test here, this is the first test of the level. I typically wait, and then, even here, obviously, it just came right back down. Boom. So, that's all I could really say there. It's still during prime time trading, prior to 10 o'clock even. So you'd like to think if 10:15, 10:30 is that famed reversal hour, there's still plenty of time from 9:50 in the morning to get that move, right? So that's where I would feel a little bit more confident perhaps there, but I'm just happy it took a really nice exit. It just made it worth it, right? That's what matters most. Said sold because I didn't want to get slaughtered, quote unquote, and build up my confidence. Absolutely. And even if you got out at 330, like I said, that's a hell of a trade, because on the amount of shares that Bill took that on, that's a hell of a profit. Even the 30 cents to make it 61-cent profit, that's phenomenal. So Bill's killing it right there. All right. So that was Bill's email. I want to go over this trade actually in full, go over like even prior to Bill's entry here, because he had a great trade. Don't get me wrong. And he took a lot of meat off the bone on this. But as far as the call out, the stock itself, it was on our pre-market list, right? It moved up overnight. So we were looking at this heading into the morning from yesterday. Now, let me ask us really quick. All right. At what price, around what price do we tend to see the largest spike of volume from the CVP column? From CVP, not heat map, not the orange, but where you go down the CVP column, around what price do you tend to see the largest spike of volume off of it? What have you got? Grant saying just right around 240, right? Larry's saying 242, right around there, right? 240-ish, right? Pretty much. And this is a more distinct spike. This is not just like a little lump or like a more flat mound. This is a nice spike where you can clearly see within maybe this like 2 penny range, maybe 3 penny range at most. No, 2 pennies. Between Grant and Larry's answer there, 240, 242, right there, right? So there was a lot of volume that was traded there. Clearly shows. Well, the question is how much, right? And this is kind of where I got scared out of the Lacey stock, at least earlier. But as far as relating the CVP to how much volume is on the COB, right? COB versus CVP. Notice that this just has a bar. Obviously, I can always kind of switch that out. Now, let's really investigate. Across the pre-market, we'll probably just add these three price levels together. The three twos, right? The three twos, right? You could just see that. So basically, I'll do the math for you. It's basically 700 plus thousand shares. You round this up. So, or you carry over the one, whatever you call it. So it's 700,000 shares that were filled right around that 240-ish area, correct? Between these three prices, about 700,000 shares. All right. So I think you know where I'm going with this. Let's even go to this order on the bid. You got this dark beet red line here at 190, right? I would like to think that's going to be a pretty big level for today, or for this morning at least. Yesterday this was. It was about 28,000 shares, though. 28,522 shares. So let me ask you, what's a bigger size? 28,522 versus 700,000. What do we got? For all that's in the main chat board right now, Margaret, Luis, Grant, Abdul, Leda, Alex, Tony, all of our students and members right there. If you can answer that for me really quickly, what do you got? What's a bigger size, the 28K or the 700K? Like to put things in perspective, right? Not all levels are equal. And that's where I say here, clearly there is a lot more volume around this area compared to not just this support, but also even more so this resistance at 250. You know, what's the bigger level, 240 or 250? In this example here today, this stock, at least this one here, 240 seems to be the bigger level going into the open. Now, of course, when the market opens up, I'd like to think a clean break above that and we're flying. Well, even more volume joins the ask actually after 9:30. I'll zoom in with like a really good magnifying glass here. I'll show you here. About another 100 plus thousand shares joining the ask, 120 plus thousand shares joining the ask after the market opened up at 240 and at 241. So that was already a level yesterday morning in pre-market. And then after 9:30, even more volume shows up there. 1 + 1 = 2, right? So as far as like, where is the big level? What do we look for? When do we enter? My best entries to buy a stock are directly after it breaks through a big level on the way up. Now, here's the tough part on this trade. It does this within the first 1 to 2 minutes. So unless if this pulls back down to 240 as support, you're likely to be seeing the stock moving up without you. And that's what happened here at first for me. So I just want you to know, even this year from 240, it wasn't my entry. I didn't jump in at 240 here. I held back. What weekday was yesterday? Monday. That's right. And aren't we in a Fed week also? So this is where I tell you, like, I'm waiting, and it sucks that I'm waiting here because this is popping way too easily for me here. So I'm looking for support. It didn't pull back that far, but a new question, the same question I had from earlier, though, in pre-market. Let me ask you, what price level sticks out on the CVP column again? Now in this example, where you look at the CVP column, what volume spike pops up the most there? What shows the largest? Rick, one of our new members joining us here in chat, says 264. What do we got, folks? Do we agree? I'd probably say shade under, but yeah, it's basically right there, right? 260-ish, 262, like just right under that red box that says 264, because you can kind of see right there, right? So probably like 262, right? So I'm thinking, hey, if this ends up breaking over 262, then there's a very good chance for a clean run. And it took a few attempts. So I remember going in and out, it was like -2. And then from there, it ended up making the push. So I took a couple stabs at this from yesterday. And once it broke over 262 for me, that's where I ended up jumping on this trade. And it was a clean push, obviously. But from that point, that's where you're focused around reversal time, right? You're thinking 10:15, 10:30. The more this goes up, I'm thinking, all right, well, shit, this thing's probably going to pull back down. So I ended up getting out. I think it was like right at 315, 310-ish even. You know, I took good money on the trade. That's where I just told Bill, like, hell, if I can make 40, 50, 60 cents on like a cheap stock like that, especially that early in the morning. Not only could I try and find a new entry on that same stock coming up in just a little bit, but there's probably another stock that's moving out there that I could be getting my hands on. That could be setting itself up for its own move. So, this GoEv stock, if you're not familiar with this company, it's an EV company. That doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of like when it trades better versus not. It's just to say that the faster this pops up in a shorter amount of time, maybe it gets halted, which would be good. But it's also say maybe it's going to pull back, and I don't want to give up a lot of unrealized profit. So, I got out as it was pushing up. I felt clean about it. Of course, the more it popped up after, I'm like, all right, maybe I could have held on even that much more. But, think like full perspective, right? How often are you up 40, 50, 60 cents on a trade? It is not rare for me, but it's just, hey, like, I'd rather not give that crap up. I'd rather not give up a full-fledged $400, $500, $600 profit, if not more, if you're trading more shares. But hey, obviously the same to be said here as it pushes up. This came back down very quickly. So I remember even afterwards, I took a small loss on this looking for support. I tried jumping in. I think it was right from that same area, like 310-ish, 315. It was very quick, like right at this point. In, out, and then you just said, all right, well, it's not going to make that move. And this stock in the past, you could just see on larger days where it may have ran, it moved up maybe a little bit more following days, but we're not trying to swing trade it. It gapped up here and made a pop, and then it came crashing back down the subsequent days. So, it's a pretty similar pattern, actually, looking at this daily chart and looking at this parabolic move up, then back down, right? It's very similar graph, actually. So you don't want to be on the top of the roller coaster, at least looking on the way down, because it's tougher to get out of at that point. All right, so that was the GoEv, at least from yesterday. I went over at least the initial levels. I know Patrick did very well on that stock, at least a few others, at least earlier yesterday did. Now, let's take a look at it live, because we just saw this move up before. So, it kind of pulled back a bit, but did well on it yesterday. So why not go back to the well if it's looking okay, if it's looking good? So right now, well, actually, I'll tell you what, I probably need to reassess new levels because, it kind of flopped into the afternoon, but, there's still a couple of levels that you could identify with. 366, 365. Clearly that seems to be a larger iceberg level from yesterday. Shoot, I don't have my notepad in front of me here. I'm going to write this down on my keyboard here, actually, really quickly. 365, just spacing this out. There we go. What else we got? See, this is tough from CVP because this is more of like a lump or a mound. You could probably lean to this, but it's not as prominent of a spike as what we had, like, in our previous examples. Here, closing bell print, that's at 290, but this is, I think, well past 290 at this point. It's about a 358,000 share block print. So, of course, that's going to be pretty relevant for today, at least. Opening bell print today. Well, hey, it's also the same price, 290. Close yesterday, open today, same exact price. Don't always have that. But the reason why that's important is because you're going to see big volume at the same exact price level again. So, just solidifies that 290 even more. I wonder if this is going to pull back and test 290 as support for us here coming up live in Traders Talk, or even afterwards. Join us inside our live trading room for that. We'll continue following this trade in just a bit. It's been holding over 3, but on a shakedown, it wouldn't shock me if we get this 290 level test first, or next, might I say. All right, so with that, let me know if you have any questions on GoEv for Barbara, Grant, Luis, Patrick, all of our students right there in chat. If you have any other questions there. Bill, I think that you sent over one more, right? And if it was not a duplicate, let me just double check. So he says he placed his stop at 294 on the trade. Oh, so Bill, same trade that you referenced there, the one from yesterday at 302. You set your stop at 294. Is that what you're saying? Because if so, that's a good stop. That's a pretty decent stop right there for me. Like I would normally set relatively similar stop, just depending on like where maybe a smaller iceberg could be. Maybe it's at like 295, and you'll place that stop at 294, which would be perfect. Maybe that smaller iceberg order to back you up as support. Maybe it's a different level, but maybe it's at like 290, and you place it even at 289. Your risk is based on your comfort level at the end of the day. Now, we try and guide you with specific rules and catchphrases. I'll always say when a stock breaks through a big level and you jump in, we should be getting that big move shortly after. So even going back to my missed move, Lacey, this ended up actually going right up to that level, 183, 185, and it shook. So looks like that actually played out quite perfect as far as a trade. Shoulda, coulda, woulda for myself. It is what it is. We'll come back on this trade later on, or even move over to a different trade later on today. That's all right. It looks like this also just pulled back to support here, at least initially. But as far as continuation, we'll see if this ends up breaking back above this 183 price, because the more it could at least break above that, I'll feel much better about continuation later on. Looks like part of that order got pulled. Yeah, look at this. They pulled this order here too. That 118,000 shares went to 62,000 shares. So they pulled about half of it, a little less than half. And then it broke above the remaining part. But either way, that was basically the top of the roller coaster at that point. Essentially, that's what I was a bit afraid of here at this 155. And I thought it was going to even shake just before it even moved up to there. So missed opportunity for me. If you hung on to that trade, it worked out perfect for you, level to level, essentially, right? But there's always another stock. Now, just going back to the Lacey, though, it's like pretty similar, though, on the Goev, where you'd like to figure when it's going to break through a big level, you should get that big move shortly after. I started off good here, but I was a little afraid to pull back there, but obviously led to that better run. All right, let me know if there's any other questions, at least that you got, at least for right now in chat. I'll jump back to email here right now. See from Lee, Henry, and I think Leonard, right? All right, from Lee, just here first, saying, can you discuss Pixie, another crazy stock? This one was a lot less tradable compared to the Goev. So, tale of two different tapes here, quite literally, pun not intended there. But, with Pixie, look at the order book. This thing is a lot more spaced out, and this is not the type of stock we'd really advocate to be trading in general, unless if it's directly coming off a news, headline. Like yesterday, it popped pretty nicely. It was coming off news. Doesn't always mean it's going to trade the same volume, and easy to say, but look at the big drop off in volume already from yesterday into this morning. I know we got a lot of time left before market close, but I don't think this is going to catch up to 12.8 million shares today, unless out of nowhere, just like coming up in the next 2 minutes, we see this thing explode. But at least earlier, I think Lee was asking me to go over Pixie. So can you discuss Pixie specifically? How do you get in and out of a stock that has such a wide spread? There we go. Seems to me if you send a market order, either you're getting in or out and you're asking to get killed. Absolutely, Lee. You took the words right from my mouth there. It's like perfect phrase. Really, like you are costing yourself immensely just on the spread. So when the spread's this big for such a cheap stock, simply put, and I know we don't like hearing no. Trust me, like I'm a stubborn SOB. I don't like hearing no. Trust me, we all don't like hearing no to some level. I know every one of us here is as humble as pie and as sweet as could be. Trust me, I've spoken to every one of us. Luis, Grant, Ravina, Kathleen, Barbara, Brad. If I didn't shout you out, my apologies. Got a lot of us joining me here. Everyone here has great intention. But we don't like being told no. When the spread's that big on such a cheap stock, folks, don't trade it. Just move on to something else. You're going to be saving yourself a lot of hassle. We're not here, and I'm just saying this as an umbrella comment, certainly with the intent of no one. I'm just saying this as to everyone, because I think of this myself. I say it to myself this way. We're not here to play casino, right? We have families. We have, sons and daughters, although they may be, adults at this point. We have family that we need to take care of. We have grandchildren more so on top of, right? And nieces and nephews, maybe myself, that we need to take care of. And we want to make sure that we could, have the chance to help them out when in need, or, be able to spend money on them when we want. So at least at that, why are we trying to just play around with our money, right? If you got the money to do that already, and this is just for fun, then that's fine, right? If that's your intent going into it, and you're knowing that already, and you're doing it on small shares, and this is just for fun, be my guest, right? You can never go wrong having fun as long as we're doing on just small stuff, right? But the majority of us are here to make money, right? You're here to supplement income, maybe replace income entirely, right? If you're still working. So here, this type of stock, yesterday at least, was probably on a tighter spread, but not nearly as tight as I'd want it to be. So at that, I guess it popped in the afternoon. Your best friend for a stock that has a wide spread, not even this is still untradeable. I'm saying 3 cent, 5 cent spread, not 16-cent spread. You know what I mean? So your best friend for a stock that at least has a more open spread, 3 to 5 cents roughly, it would be rebreaks. It would be seeing a stock rebreak big resistance. Transparently enough, I'm just back to Lacey here, back to my stupid Lacey that I just missed out on a bunch of money on, right? Trust me, I'm a little ticked off this moved up without me. But the reason I at least felt confident with the entry portion of it was because it was re-breaking the level. Now, that's for this stock that's on a penny spread. For a stock that's on a wider spread, this is even more your ally. So the fact that this was nipping this level once, twice, 3 times here, it was relentless. I know that it might look like insanity doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. Kind of just, the false breakouts, that is, and getting chopped up maybe. Yeah, I took a couple small losses on this, but from there, it ended up obviously making the better of the move that I was hoping for. But, still just the entry portion of it, the same thing plays out on a more volatile stock, something like Works, at least from earlier here. I know this was a stock I had a question on from a student via private chat. It broke above 350 here, and then it held under it perfect afterwards. And maybe you can say on top like a 340-ish too, just kind of the combination, I would assume. But simply put, the more it's nipping this level in a smaller concentration, this is more likely to make that larger reaction, right? So, of course, once the pop moved up a little bit more from there, at least, really, decent move. So that's kind of the answer to your question there, Lee, at least in terms of just tradability. At least if it's on an open spread, 3 to 6 cents maybe, especially the more expensive the stock is, it's probably going to open up that much further. Stock like SMCI, obviously $900 stock roughly, is going to be on dollars worth of spreads. NVIDIA's obviously opened up that much more now with it being around the same price. With this being that much more liquid, it's still pretty big. It's about like 30 to 40 cent spread, right? So, of course, price factors into the spread. AMD, with as expensive as it's gotten, it's actually still pretty tight, right around 1 to 2, 3 cent spread. It's going to open up more, the more expensive this becomes over time. That's fine. I don't mind that, especially if it's a more, liquid stock, a stock on a higher float, stock that trades a crap ton of shares every day. Tesla, if this is on a 5 cent spread, who cares? I accept that. That's fine. When Pixie, a $5 stock, is on a 18-cent spread right now, what are we doing with ourselves? You know what I mean? And I say it bluntly because I don't have any one student in mind when I say that phrase. I say that more with myself in mind, right? We don't want to be killing ourselves based on the spread alone. To add on top to Lee also, if you do trade a stock on a more open spread either way, if it's 3, 5, 6 cent spread, you got to use a limit order. You cannot be using a market order. And for Lee or anyone else, I can go over that with you in class coming up this month in March. Phase 1 will even be going over that. But on coaching, one-on-one, I can do a full class with you or a full tutorial with you personally on how to set up a limit order, a stop order from there. We do that all in class, mind you. But, if you want the Spark noted version of that, I'll work with you, on a one-on-one coaching. All right. Gary on YouTube, getting back to, at least chat right here on YouTube right now. Gary's saying he has a rule: never trade stocks with spreads over 10 cents. Simple as that, right? Keep yourself disciplined and just follow your own rule. Do you hit on 18 when you play blackjack, or do you stick? For anyone that's not familiar with blackjack, the answer is you stick, right? You don't do any crazy stuff, right? Gary says currently in Roku at 64.50-ish. We'll just take a peek at that, I reckon. Moving up a little bit. I like Roku. Roku, more expensive stock. It's going to have an open spread. You accept that. That's perfectly fine spread for Roku. But, again, just this is a stock that will trade good volume pretty much day to day, millions and millions of shares a day at least. So, it's one that we'll keep in mind here and there, especially when it's coming off the news there, Gary. Wishing you all certainly on this Roku trade, though. It's off to a nice start. Actually, getting back. How about DraftKings? Where's DraftKings at right now? Moving back up. Damn. All right, I got time for the bigger pop, the higher high I'm really looking for. I got out on DraftKings on my swing trade at least this morning as it was dropping. There was no support on the bid. This thing just kept pulling back, and I just kept giving up a little bit more and more. Like, all right, screw it. I'm out like basically at 42.50. And I tried jumping back in. I had a good entry, and then it pulled back. I'm like, no support again. It looks like it might break a lower low. Should have just held faith with that, but there's plenty of time. DraftKings is a good swing trade coming up with March Madness season, college basketball tournament. If you are not into that, I completely understand, but a lot of sports gambling going on over the next 3 weeks at least here with that. Men's and women's, right? Louise saying, Josh, if you don't have a platform that shows you the spread, what can you do? Well, that would beg me to ask, what platform are you currently using? Because in phase one, we even discussed in phase one class, just best platforms to use. Basically TradeStation, Interactive Brokers, Thinkorswim, Fidelity, eTrade Pro even. I know I got off a call with a student yesterday that uses eTrade Pro. It's a good platform. It's direct access, as long as the platform is direct access. But that's what we recommend. We want you to be on direct access trading platforms. So from class, there's a whole different list a whole list of brokerages that we at least discuss, right? Interactive Brokers, as I said, Fidelity, Webull, most mainstream brokerages nowadays, right? Now in Canada, I would likely go with Interactive Brokers. Questrade's been discussed here and there. So, for students that use Questrade, they'd give you personal experience with it. And, if they sign off on it, then, take their word. They're longtime students of CTU. And I would definitely take their word as, students I've worked with and students that you always see in the chat board. But otherwise, from my experience, let's say if you're in Canada, I would say your best bet would be to go to Interactive Brokers. They're direct access. There's no issues with them in terms of day trading. In fact, they actually have a really good inventory to short stocks as well. Probably the best inventory to short stocks. So that would be just kind of a good one to go with. All right. No, Luis, they absolutely do. It's just a matter of the data that you're probably not subscribed to, but I could have Rich talk to you about that in a moment. Just Interactive Brokers, they actually have a program on their platform called the Book Trader. That right there actually is comparable to the TradeStation Matrix. So definitely they show the bid ask, they show the spread, and Rich could email you that just in a little bit, or you could private chat you. All right, let's see what other emails we got, though. Just keep it going. From Henry here. My dad's name. There we go. I don't think you're my dad, are you? Henry L. Levitan. No, Henry Lamb here. So one of our new members joining us here says, when I look at the TradeStation screen, some of the windows are clipped, so I can't tell what they're about. Ooh, so that's more of a trading room kind of setting question there. I'll tell you what, even that, my colleague Rich can private chat you, Henry. If you're here live right now, I could have Rich just send you over a separate message here on the side. It'll probably pop up on a different window compared to the main chat within the trading room here. And he'll talk to you at least how to get that fixed. But that's kind of just a quick one there. All right. Keep it going. Chuck, we're going to just go another 10 minutes, man. Then we'll finish up Traders Talk, all right? We got a lot of trading to do, folks. Trust me. Going nowhere. I missed out on 40 cents worth of room on that Lycee, as pissed off as I just was before. It's dumping off now. I'm not going to cry over spilt milk. There's going to be plenty other trades after 12 o'clock, Chuck. We're just going to finish up here in a bit. Leo or Leonard says, Josh, it feels the overall market has been extremely lower than normal. Oh, I'm sorry. It's been a long morning so far. Josh, it feels the overall market volume has been extremely lower than normal. Is there a specific strategy or guideline that we should consider? Thanks in advance. No problem at all. And with that, that's a great question. So jump to the SPY. Market volume extremely lower than normal. So the best way that I could answer that here, the simplest way that I could answer that here would be to basically just check out the volume bars month over month, week over week. Since maybe the beginning of the year, you're always going to see peaks and valleys. So there was a bunch of volume that poured in as the markets dipped off one more time and bounced. Gradually, I guess you could say it's been pretty stable. And then up until recent, it's been a slightly dipping off just from, I'm sorry, this is from 2023, pardon me. So from the beginning of 23 there, and then here's the beginning of 24, pardon me with that, but I wouldn't say extremely lower. That's the thing. I mean, you're looking at these volume bars, there's not really a pattern that I see that's like really sticking out too much. This is a huge spike here. This is a big spike here. These are weekly bars. Nothing really sticking out. I mean, you can see week over week over week. This is increasing. Now, I really want to kind of dig into that, or I wanted to right there. I was giving it my best eye right there to see if there was like a really big pattern I could notice. But here's something I could share with you, though. Here's something that I have noticed historically. Maybe I could even just do the SPX on this one here. So on the SPX and on the SPY, I want to take a look just at the summer months. As you head into June, July, August, that's where you tend to see more kind of the volume dipping off month over month over month. So May, June, July, little dip. August kind of picking up back in 23, but then more in October, right? May, June, July, dip, 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 right? Notice that? May, June, July. It did dip from June into July. It was a little stable May into June. But basically, you'll tend to more often than not see dips as you head into the summer. May, June, a little bit larger there. July, big drop off though after that point. So typically, as you head into the summer months, you'll see a little less volume being traded within the market overall, but not even that big of a drop off. Right now, I wouldn't even say as much looking month over month here. It's been pretty stable for like the last 4 or 5 months. And prior to that, it actually picked up quite a bit, right? It was stable from July, August, September last year. And then we picked up quite a bit. We stabilized. Now here we are, like basically as we're rounding third into the end of the month here in March. So we got time. And plus we got the Fed meeting coming up tomorrow. So we'll probably see a huge kick in volume, at least for tomorrow's day and afterwards. So we'll see how that ends up faring out. But as far as like the overall markets, it's more just kind of the summer months I've noticed historically here. All right. So I think that's where I'm going to finish up there, folks. So if there's any other questions right now in chat, definitely let me know. Got to refill up on water if anything. All right. So here, last call, folks, for all of us in just chat. Actually, last one. SOUN from Chuck. It was a decent little pop at the time, but hopefully there's still more left on this trade. It was a good call. It's just one that we're familiar with, and one that we'll see if it ends up making a higher push or a higher high over time. There we go. It's up like break even here today. Looking at the closing bell print 824 from yesterday. That's just a very quick level I'll plot there for you. That's the closing bell print from yesterday. So that would likely just need to hold as support over time. This Lycee stock here has a good chance of going under and over from this support range. I would namely want to see it break over 160. But otherwise, though, if it could look to do that in the next like 10, 15 minutes, there could be a good bounce here coming up on this one as well. Just double check the VWAP to see where that's at as well there. Oh, this just basically held right over the VWAP. Did a very good job just before holding over the VWAP price. So now it needs to solidify better over where we had the iceberg get broken through here at 160. And if so, that could lead to a better play going into the early to mid-afternoon. All right. Now, hey, for all of us on YouTube, Facebook Live, LinkedIn, etc., really quick, Gary saying CTU offering deals for Bookmap. I would say join us just inside our live trading room for that, Gary. If you want to just personally shoot me over a quick email, I'll send that over to you just via email at least there. But for all of us otherwise, just join us inside our live trading room. Just scan that QR code on the top right, or my dyslexia, top left. I'm looking inversely actually through my streamer page right here, but otherwise top left. If you're fancy with your phone, fancy with your camera, just scan that QR code. And we look forward to having you inside our live trading room for a full week. That's where we provide the full rendition of this workshop, the full chat behind the instructors, myself, Fausto, my colleague Rich, all of our students and traders alike in chat right now, Kathleen, Grant, Andrea, Michael, Luis, Chuck, Grant, and all of us otherwise. But hey, hey, I'll be back on the mic here coming up at 2:30 Eastern for all of us collectively, simulcast just for the afternoon meeting. And we'll go from there. We'll see if Lacey ends up flipping this 160 into support for the bounce. We'll see if the SOUN trade makes that push, or if there's anything else that otherwise that pops up. All right, folks, I'll talk to everybody soon coming up here. Take care.